Hey everybody, it's Kelly with Kel's Kitchen and Pampered Chef. I am hopping on today because I wanted to do the first ever rosemary Parmesan bread in our Dutch enameled cast iron. So I'm super excited to do this for the first time, and I want to go ahead and video it because honestly, we don't always get a lot of time to make a bread, but it actually is quite simple. You just have to have a little bit of planning involved. If you were to get up and make this in the morning and you're going to let it go through 2 different rises, you would have your fresh bread for dinner. And that is what my goal is today. So let's start on this. So we've got some olive oil, some salt, some rosemary, fresh rosemary chopped up. We have our yeast, okay? And I have gone ahead and put that and measured that yeast out because it's about 7 grams on our food scale. I love this food scale because of the sleek design. If you can't store it this way, store it this upright this way. It's a great space saver in your kitchen, and yet you can still get your accurate measurements. We've got 4 cups of flour, which I'm going to put into my mixing bowl. And we've got some freshly grated Parmesan cheese. I don't know if you can see how snowy white that is. But yeah, fresh cheese, guys. Always, always, always use some fresh grated cheese as opposed to the pre-grated. It just makes it, honestly, it just combines better when you're cooking in food. So let's get my hair out of the way and let's get going here. If you have a moment and you enjoy this video, please go ahead and hit like, share, and subscribe because I'll be doing more of these videos as time goes on. So again, let's start with 4 cups of flour. Let's grab one of our bamboo spoons. I'm just gonna make a little bit of a well here. I have our pastry mat out. I have our cutting board out with our amazing forged cutlery knives because I wanted to chop up that rosemary. We're gonna add in the 2 teaspoons of salt, about 1.5 teaspoons of rosemary, and I do tend to follow the recipe the first time and then I make adjustments. So for example, if I wanted more rosemary or more cheese next time, you know, you get the idea. 1/2 cup of this Parmesan. All right, perfect. And we need to get some water running because the water is going to be, it's the temperature of your water and the yeast combination is what's going to do it, okay? So 7 grams, like I said, 7 grams of yeast. I'm just going to dump that in the center there. You see I kind of have like a little eye going. So the yeast activates with the warm water. We also are going to add 2 teaspoons of sugar, and that, or rather, sorry, about 1/2 teaspoon of sugar. And that recipe that I'm doing is right on my website. So I will post the website as well for you to see it. But the sugar, in all honesty, helps to activate that yeast. That's why it's there. And you're like, why? It's only 1/2 teaspoon in all 4 cups of flour. Well, that's why. Now we need 1.5 cups of water. And we want to get that about 120 in temperature. So I've got my instant read thermometer. I love this thermometer because it has a spoke that you can just put in there, but it also has a probe that comes with it. So you can have it right on your roast in the oven. Let's turn this on and see where we're at. If your water is too hot, it actually will kill the yeast. So you do want to, I do, especially when you're first learning to make bread, go ahead and make sure that you've got the right temperature. So mine came up at 127. So we're gonna add that in and we're just gonna mix to combine. I mean, that's pretty simple for bread, right? All right, I've got my pastry mat out here because we're gonna have to do some kneading and rolling and we'll talk about that. But let me know in the comments, what kind of bread do you enjoy making? I really wanna nail down some sourdough bread. That's on my bucket list. But if I give this one a try, it just sounded really nice and herb oriented. You know what I mean? Okay, so I'm just using that bamboo spoon. It's starting to combine, but I want to get my hands in there now. So we are going to add a little flour to our pastry mat to prevent it from sticking. If you want to do it like a chef, you could just fling it from the side and it scatters real nice. But, you know, I'm a good old home cook. So I'm just using my knuckles here to kind of get all the components of this bread in here. And then I'm going to turn it out on the board. So the texture, that's probably the one thing. Like, you don't want it super, super sticky. Like, you can see the little bits on my hand here. Those need to be worked in. If your dough is too wet, that's not going to work either, right? All right, and I'm going to just double check all my ingredients for this. 1.5 cups of warm water, that's what I said. 2 teaspoons of salt we talked about. So your yeast, I have a jar of yeast, but if you get packets, it's 1 packet. Okay, so you wouldn't have to measure that out. All right, let me add to this. So when you're doing this, use the heel of your hand. People kind of use their fingertips. That's just going to poke a lot of holes. Okay, so we're going to just work this over, and you want to do it for about 5 to 6 minutes. Okay, until you get a nice kind of smooth consistency. As you go through it, you can pick up some of the flour pieces from your bowl and kind of just really work them in. Today it's pretty cold outside, so I thought a little bread and maybe some soup in the blender. Make some soup would be really nice. Big snowstorms all over the country today, so. And actually I heard some in the States this morning as well. I think a lot of people have been making some bread. This is 2021. We've been, in the middle of the pandemic. But this has been a fun thing for sure. Now you can start to see that I've worked it in, but it's getting a little stickier now, right? So that's telling me I can put a little bit more of the leftover flour in my bowl from my bowl to incorporate that in. Okay. And just turn it around. Spread your nice flour around your nice pastry mat here. Pastry mat, I really kind of enjoy this. I just opened it today actually, and it's nice and thick, and it has beautiful round markings. It's got the inch markings along the side so that you can measure your pastry if you're doing like lattice work. It's also got the rings so that you can see if you've rolled your pie out to the right size for your dish. Okay, so then the next thing you want to do is take that dough. So it's really kind of like working 4 corners of your circle, okay? And then you're gonna just kind of pull that to you, okay? Take it and pull it to you. All those corners are about on the bottom. You have a nice round dough, and I'm gonna get a clean bowl here. All right. Oh, can I smell the rosemary? Oh yeah, I can smell that yeast is starting to work. All right. I'm gonna take some of this olive oil and just brush the top. Can you imagine the butter on this warm rosemary bread? Can't wait. All right, so we've got our first mix up. It didn't take very long, did it? So let's take a look and we'll see what happens next. I'm gonna set it here. We're gonna take a dry cloth. Some people say use a moist damp cloth. Just don't put it by a window where there's a draft or something like that, right? 1 to 2 hours, we're gonna come back. We're gonna want it doubled in size, and then we will come right back and get that done for you to see, just to work through the second rise, and then we'll be all set to go. Okay, so we'll be back. All right, folks, so it's been more than an hour, maybe an hour, 20 minutes, hour, 30 minutes, okay? And you can see that we now have a big bowl of bread. All right, we're gonna take that out and put that on our pastry mat. Now I'm gonna grab a bit of flour just because I kind of wiped off my pastry mat from the bits and whatnot that were there earlier. So we're just gonna take this, we're gonna take those corners, we're just folding them back in. This is a very quick process, and we're gonna let this rise one more time, okay? Look at the smoothness. Can you see the smoothness now, especially with that little bit of oil that was brought in there? I wanna see if I can show you without doing too much damage to the gluten. There we go. All right, so we're just gonna take the heel of the hand and push it through. And then you just kind of fold those 4 corners up. Bring your flour back over. Once again, I just pull it towards me to shape it. And then we have a nice ball. All right, so once again, I've grabbed a bigger bowl this time, just so that I could have a clean bowl to do this one. Piece of wax paper, and I'm going to set this in, sorry, not wax paper, but parchment paper. I'm going to set that ball inside. And once again, I'm just going to take my basting brush and brush the top off. We're going to let this rise for another 1 to 2 hours. I might try to be patient enough to let it go 2 hours. And then so we can get nice fluffy bread. You can even see the little marks in there. I'm going to hold that up for you. All right, and we're going to cover it back up with a cloth, and I'll see you again in 1 to 2 hours. All right, so we are back right around the 2-hour mark. I want to point out the Dutch oven again that we were talking about earlier. I've had it preheating for, you can preheat it for about 20 minutes or so. The oven is at 450. And we're going to transfer this bread that has risen. This is the second rise. We're going to literally just transfer it to that pan and then bake it. So let's see what we have. Look at that. I'm going to show you like right there. See that? That's gorgeous. So the oil has kind of like seeped in and everything. It's nice and loose on the paper, but because this is parchment paper, we're going to go right ahead and put this on right into the Dutch oven, just as it is, parchment paper and everything. Okay. Actually, what I'll do first, I think, is I'll finish it off here. I have a big air bubble. I'm not sure you can, yeah, you can kind of see that in the camera. See that? We need to pinch that because you don't want that bubble in there. All right. We'll just pat that down and it's fine. And keep pinching. All right. We're going to go ahead and make a crisscross split in it just by using some kitchen shears. You could use a knife if you want, but I do think that the cutting it with the dough with the kitchen shears, that's hard to say, is just as simple. Put a little bit more olive oil on it because what we're going to do is we're going to bake it for 25 minutes at that 450 mark. All right, and that's going to be covered in the Dutch oven. And then another 8 to 10 minutes uncovered, and it will be all finished. And so when we get to that point, I will bring this back around. Now, let's see. We're just going to put that back in here. I had reserved about a couple tablespoons of Parmesan, so we want to sprinkle the top. And that'll be nice and brown once we take the cover off for that last few minutes of baking. Rosemary Parmesan bread. Super excited for this. Okay, this is not hot, but we're going to put it into the Dutch oven carefully. All right, and then put the lid back on and put it back into the oven. All right. Dutch ovens are a beautiful piece for your center table. It's one of those heritage pieces that you'll pass on to your kids, you know? All right, so it's gonna go in now, and I will see you after we've cooked it for 25 minutes, covered, and then 8 to 10 minutes with the cover off. All right, we'll be back. Time is up. Truth be told, let's get in the oven and bring out the cast iron. Remember, I'd already taken the lid off after the first 25 minutes. Let's see what we have here. Woo. Look at that. Remember, make sure to have your mitts, okay? These ones are great actually because they cover my whole hand. I have little hands and sometimes the big mitts, they just don't fit right, so I get a good grip there. Just gonna use that parchment paper to take it out. Let me go ahead and slide it. I want you to see the whole thing. This looks so good. There we go. You gotta let your bread cool before you cut it, so give it 10 minutes or so in bread, and then you have rosemary Parmesan bread to eat. Your family's gonna love you and thank you. And I thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this recipe and want to see some more homemade, just from a regular cook in the kitchen, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it, guys. Have a good night. Oh, I just got your shield.